my brothers, our beloved sisters, the Godfather here, Mike's side, one more time. Brothers, there's so much going on right now that's amplifying the bipolar reality that exists in these United States of America and its influence around the globe. It's been amazing. But I'm going to invite our listeners before we get going tonight to hit that like button, share this with someone else, become a subscriber, help us get to 100,000 on or before the end of this year. We just been having a lot of questions asked of us as to what are we trying to accomplish. And we share with those that we are attempting to provide a very balanced perspective of the Black man thought process in America. We are a group of brothers from similar backgrounds, but far different backgrounds. And our objective is to share what our experience has been from a Black man's point of view. We want to invest tonight some time on this concept of immigration, because perhaps we see immigration in a way different than others. And the concept of immigration in and of itself will demonstrate the bipolar reality that exists in America. America, my brothers, is a nation that refuses to see its true heirs. My son, when he was in college now some 10 years ago, did a piece on Colin Kaepernick, however you may want to pronounce it, where he used that illustration as an example to show in this private white institution that Black Americans are the most patriotic of all Americans, and that we are the true heirs to whatever benefits, whatever estates that should be addressed in the United States of America. You see, there's a paradox about the American dream. America was founded on the soaring rhetoric of liberty, equality, and justice for all. Yet from its inception, the nation erected a social and economic order built upon bondage. The United States became the wealthiest nation on earth, not simply through ingenuity or divine favor, but through the resilience, the unpaid labor, the suffering of enslaved Africans and their descendants. We are the offspring and descendants of those people. And this is America's bipolar reality, a country that exalts freedom while denying full recognition to those who made freedom possible. It is a nation that sees itself as moral and exceptional, yet perpetually refuses to extend what we're going to define tonight as a most favored nation status to the very people whose blood and sweat fertilize its soil. With me tonight in our virtual studio is Cyber Aki himself and also the Peacemaker. And we're going to discuss this concept of this subject matter of immigration. All of us are immigrants. Yet as Dr. Claude Anderson has said, we should be given, and we are, a special status because we are the only offsprings of immigrants who came here against their will, yet through it all were able to survive and now stand some 45 million strong in these United States of America. I personally believe that number is far greater when you apply the 1/16th rule that many ancestors had to deal with. My brother Cyber Aki, as we get going tonight, I'd like to hear your foundation or your opening comments on this concept of immigration, but we want to show how it really impacts us. We're not concerned about so many that's more or less, when you hear the word immigration, they immediately go to the concept of thinking about those coming from South America or south of the borders, they say, and that's their focus. But to us, it's far deeper than that. It is not just defined as someone that is not native born or born here in America. Far deeper. We don't even look at it that way. But I like to hear your comments, and then Peacemaker, like to have you come right behind Cyber Key and share your comments as well. Come on, Cyber Key.
Peace to my brothers, my colleagues in this right fight for truth, freedom, justice, and equality. Um, Immigration, as you stated earlier in your opening dialogue, we are all immigrants, unless you're found to be one of the Native Americans that has toured this land. A lot was killed. Um, as the pilgrims begin to arrive in America. I know some black folks stake claim to being originals of the land. I'm not one of those who stake that claim, uh, because I do believe that there wasn't enough of us. Yes, some came before Columbus, as Ivan Van Sertima suggested, but enough to control the land. Um, I don't believe there was enough darker people of America here. Um, so I do believe that most of us, probably 80 to 90%, ancestors came on slave ships, whether we like it or not. And I'm just of that mindset. So in that mindset, we are immigrants, but we are forced immigrants, unlike other nationalities that come here, that arrive through either the visa program or through asylum or through some other means, college, coming to get educated, student visas or worker visas. We're all immigrants. And the biggest immigrants are the Europeans who came uninvitedly, brought some others with them, and then stole the land, and now calling it their own. So we're in a tough situation here in America, being of that kind of mixture, um, and it's just tough. It's just tough to have have a real conversation when you have that mixture and that mindset of different personalities come in different ways. It makes the conversation tough.
Well, greetings to our sisters and brothers of Black Men Declare. Yeah, I too have done a little research, and from a renowned or a very credible source, the Pew Research Center, just as of June 25, 2025, they said that 51.9 million immigrants live in the United States. 15.4 of all U.S. residents were immigrants or are immigrants, and that's down from the 15.8. And what I went on to ask or research what was the cause of these immigrants coming from different countries. First, let me say that immigrants coming from, you have more that are coming from South America, as you mentioned, and from Europe, instead of coming from a lot of African and Asian countries. Seems like there is a trend now for those type of people coming. But I looked up and they said that immigrants are coming to the United States today for economic opportunities, family reunification, education, to escape violence, poverty, and natural disasters in their home countries. And when I looked at that, and it was interesting that, yeah, you have all these immigrants coming for all of these reasons, but yet we, as you mentioned in your opening statement, Godfather, we are the only immigrants that was forced to come over here. and it wasn't a choice. So we have a different mindset when it comes to immigration of the United States.
That brings us to the real fundamental truth, I believe, is that there's a uniqueness about African Americans, and we occupy a place unlike any other demographic in the United States. We are not immigrants. We did not choose to come, we were taken. We have no other homeland, although I know there are some like Cyber Key who have traced his roots back to Liberia. I know my family traced theirs back to Ghana, but it takes a lot of work to get that done. And even then, you sometimes question the database that's used to make that kind of validation or confirmation. But if you looked at the fact, most of us who call ourselves African Americans, which was a mistake by our leaders, because when we did that, we developed no national sovereignty, unlike those that may call themselves German Americans, Italian Americans, on and on and on. So we have really no other homeland than America. And sometimes when you hear people say, go back to your country, go back. Well, this is our country. What other country are we going to go to? Now, don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. I know, again, that there are some who have gone through the painstaking exercise through DNA, especially modern DNA, to find out where they originated. But our contributions are foundational, meaning that from tilling the soil of the South to fueling the industrial North, Black labor underwrote America's economic ascent. Without our ancestors doing what they were able to accomplish, America would in no way be what it is today. The loyalty that we have to America is unequaled. From the revolution to Iraq, Black Americans have defended a nation that has yet fully defended them. And unlike any other group, we are the only citizens where our citizenship is inalienable, yet perpetually questioned, whose belongings is total, yet continuously contested. So, Cyber, when you think about what our ancestors went through, well, we have proven time and time again that there's no other group that has proven itself. We think back when we look at the Civil War, when the Union was in bad shape. They needed some help. And that's the only time where we could use leverage as a people to say, hey, if you want us to help you out, you got to give us freedom. And that freedom got to be something as simple as what we've said before, based on the work of Tara Hunter and others. Give us our freedom and give us the ability to be married. And everything this bipolar system attempted to do, even with Lincoln and even with the Union, calling all of those that was in the South after the Civil War back to the North, and then making deals that didn't come out until years later, leaving our ancestors vulnerable. And I agree with you, Cyber. Ivan Van Sertima wrote a beautiful book, but at the end of the day, I just believe that some of those blacks that was here, some that may have come before the Mayflower, those that could see, as Chancellor Williams did in his work on the destruction of African civilization, it was not to the magnitude of what we hear some of the other indigenous people. It said there were anywhere from 10 to 100 million indigenous who died at the hands of immigrants from Europe. Could you imagine? We had the pandemic in 2020, but could you imagine a group of people coming into this nation today being responsible for the deaths of even 100,000 people or 1 million people? Look at how we wanted to roast the Chinese, with the concept being presented that perhaps the COVID virus originated in a lab somewhere in China. it's just amazing at the bipolar perspective that continuously exists here in America. But my brother Cyber, you're in the technical field. I mean, help us understand even in that arena how again we were the foundation. If you want to look at it even technologically, look at the brother that Alexander Graham Bell wanted to take all ownership from when he was doing his thing. There was a brother that was involved in the whole concept of telegraphic communications and things that most people don't even know about. But because all of what we've done and what we've made available was suppressed. You know, look at the brother that was over in Tuskegee that was doing all of the things that he was doing, where he was offered to come up and have a job, but he chose to stay and put his hand to the plow at Tuskegee instead of going and getting a job at the corporation. But how do you see this in this current dispensation where it seems to me we have really lost, meaning we as people, the understanding that we should be a favorite people, period. We pay it off the slaveholders. We pay it off the Japanese for their internment during World War II at $20,000 a person. Why is it so difficult for America to come to grips with itself and say, yes, we need to pay these people. We need to pay them for the lost wages of their ancestors that would allow us at least to perhaps get closer on a per capita net worth as other people in the United States of America?
Yeah, brother, that's a heavy question. I like the way that you set it up. And I'm gonna be transparent on air. Before I answer your question, I want to. So I did all kind of tests with me, my family members, because I believe in technology strongly, and I believe that we have advanced as a human species, and there's ways to get things. And I think for far too long, us blacks, we accepted, that we had no other place to go because we didn't know. But the world has become so small now where you can take a plane and get to where your destination is going to be. So these past few years, me and my family, we set out on a journey to really explore where we made up from, what is, so I've had my grandfather done, I have me done, I had, my grandmother on my dad's side, I had my uncles done. Like I really, and I combine, like I said, I'm in this technology play. I take this data and I combine it. I'm 17% Mali, 15% Nigeria, 14% Ivory Coast and Ghana, 11% Cameroon, 9% Benin and Togo, 5% Western Bantu people, 4% Senegal, 1% Central West Africa, 1% North Central Nigeria, 1% Southern Bantu people. That's my makeup. Now, if you just isolate it to the men side of my family, then you get strictly Nigeria. If you isolate it to the women's side, strictly, you get Liberia. So, which is on that Ivory Coast with Ghana. So I'm made up of a whole lot of stuff from Africa. 79%. When you add that all up, that's 79% African. I know where my home is. It's whether I want to accept it and take the challenge to get to know it. Oftentimes, we don't want to associate ourselves with that land. So you have the Chinese go in, and the Chinese say, okay, we associate ourselves with it. Let us develop it. Let us, get some of this mineral. Let us make deals. Matter of fact, we're going to build you a African museum in China to show you how important Africans is. And this is the problem that I have with us as a people here in America. Far too long, we have accepted this road that we don't know. Well, we're in a time where God has allowed us to know. He has given us tools and access to tools that we've never had before. We've never had this kind of access and material that we can see what makes us who we are. We at this road, we at this crossroad. Do you want to know or do you want to know? We can't say, yeah, I know how some of us are, including myself, on a lot of things. When we trust him for everything else, but then when it comes to us finding out who he is, we don't trust. We in this pickle, man. So I know who I am now. I've had a great opportunity, and God willing, I'll be going back in 2026. I've had the opportunity to visit Ghana, and I know my ancestors stepped foot on that. I don't have to question. I know they stepped foot over there. So this government now, they can't say, well, this so far in the past. No, my DNA says that I was brought here on slave ships, and you owe me and my ancestors for the work that they have done for the past 400 years. And I have the proof now. There's no guessing. There's no guessing. We hear some of these podcasts, like some of these podcasters that, say that they not from Africa. There's no guessing. I have my paperwork. So let's get to the check cut.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well stated. Peacemaker, when you come off a leverage like that, I don't know if you've had your DNA checked. I know I have, and it's a beautiful thing when you get a sense of you could call it validation, because when you look at the 2025 World Track and Field Championships, for example, it was a beautiful thing to see all of those brothers and sisters from all of those 54 nations or so that represented the continent of Africa, handling their business in track and field. And what was amazing, man, was the rainbow of colors that you were able to see. A lot of that based on just the mixing of races that we know took place as our ancestors migrated north and then east and then west from Africa. I don't know if you had a chance to see that at all, but in your own heart, mind, soul, and spirit, I mean, can you imagine what it may be like for those that come out of that European concept of hegemon, of dominance, to be able to have to sit down and watch that total dominance in just that one episode, that one situation that took place in September, where you could just see the brilliance of all of these Africans representing all of these nations. It was a powerful display. And yet, as dominant as it was, you didn't hear it being really touted as, look at these Africans. It was still a quiet affair. But I know it made my heart glad to see it. And at the same time, when you think about all of the things we have accomplished technologically as a people, I know you do quite a bit in looking at Black history, and what people have contributed, our people, to these United States of America and to the globe. But how do you see the people, say, in your generation, as they look at this concept of, when they think in terms of immigration, do they think in terms again of America's bipolar reality? Like America forgot itself that it was an immigrant at one time? What goes across your mind when you think of this concept of immigration from an African American point of view?
Definitely, I would say, with the bipolarism of the United States, just recently, President 47 made a comment talking about, let's make America great again. And we know that's been his slogan. And he said, We created ice cream and refrigerators, and he came up with all these different inventions. And every invention, I think he named like 7. And every invention that he named was patented by a black man. And I said to myself, and as I've had this conversation with others, how can you say you want to make, or you want to go back to an era where America is great and we've come up and even to the place where he was insinuating that America is better than every other country because we've come up with all of these creations or all of these inventions. And all of these inventions were created by black people. It definitely shows the forgetfulness of certain people when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to the creativity, when it comes to everything that we as people of color have created to make this world a better place. And I did agree with him. Yes, these who were in America has made America greater than most other countries. That's one of the reasons why everybody wants to come to America, or a good majority people want to come to America. But when you think about it, you can't say that me and my people created it or did it or made it better, when in reality they didn't. So it is a struggle that people in my age group have. And I think that what we try to do is share with our younger generations that, hey, we've created and we've done a lot. Now the baton is being passed to you. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to hold? What are you going to bring to the table? And I think that that's one of the major issues that we have to challenge our younger people to do.
You know, that's powerful, Peacemaker. Let me just share this little piece with you. After the emancipation, the economic machine did not pause. It simply rebranded oppression. Reconstruction funds, like Eric Foner writes about. He's a white professor, run by black laborers who were never paid equitable wages. They rebuilt the South. Because remember, when the Union soldiers came down, one of the things they did was destroy many of the factories that were in place at that time. Sharecropping and convict leasing replaced slavery's economic logic. They still were doing the same thing. The Black Crow codes and the Jim Crow laws ensured a cheap, compliant labor force. The New Deal exclusions, redlining, and discriminatory lending kept black families from capital accumulation. And through each era, America leveraged black productivity while denying black prosperity. This bastardization, this stripping of rightful inheritance was not accidental, it was policy. Let me give you all some quantifiable numbers. Now, according to the data, in 1860, for example, the economic value of enslaved people exceeded $3 billion, nearly 1/5 or 20% of America's national wealth. Cotton exports represented approximately 60% of the total U.S. exports, illustrating how slavery underwrote the nation's prosperity. Now, if you look at the modern equivalent of that 1860 value, that's a modern equivalent of $10+ trillion. It's mind-boggling when you think about that. And as you move forward into the industrialization of American industry, especially, let's say, in the automotive field in Detroit, I mean, what black folks contributed to the growth of the United States is undeniable. So we live in, as Brother Cyber said, an age of unprecedented information. Every statistic, every historical record, every photograph, every law is at our fingertips. There are no more secrets, no more plausible deniability. The truth is digitized, archived, and accessible. And even with all of this data, America continues to look away. Technology amplifies ignorance while people refuse to confront truth. In this era of knowledge, willful blindness becomes moral bankruptcy. My brother, Cyber, how can a nation that tracked every dollar, every stock, every satellite fail to reckon with the unpaid debt owed to its Black citizens? How can America celebrate diversity while dismissing the singularity of the African American journey? A journey, my brothers, that was defined by involuntary arrival, coerced labor, cultural erasure, and spiritual endurance. Is there a stronger, more resilient people, not only in these United States of America, but in the full global itself? This is a philosophical question. But we have the data that shows what was given to the Japanese. We have the data that shows what was given to the white slave owners. Why is it so difficult for the only immigrants that did not come here by choice to get paid?
I think, brother, to be truthful, and I really hate to say this, but I think in some ways the leadership structure still consider us three-fourths human being, and we don't deserve. They feel that we don't deserve that right. You say that, and when the last part of your statement, you say they celebrate diversity, and as we can see, that was a facade in itself. And why do I say it was facade? Because when 47 started rolling back all of this stuff, you heard us, you heard, of course, our black leadership and black people on the sidelines, you know, stating the disapproval. But if you look at the liberal, there was no uproar from white liberals, no uproar. So in my mind, I'm feeling that they felt the same way. They just wasn't bold enough to pull the trigger on it. And so you have the rolling back of the museum stuff, the things that are in museums, the things that are being taught about Black America. You have the rolling back of the Voting Rights Act. You have the rolling back of DEI, even though we are not the number one benefits of it. You have some people have benefited from it in our community, but you have all of this rolling back of. You would think that there would be more uproar, and that's what is the frustrating part of seeing the reality of what Malcolm said some 60 years ago about white liberals being the worst of the political so-called friends. They are more enemies to us than anyone because they would rather see peace. They would rather see peace, even if truth is not told. Um, they just want to have peace and have calm, and that's what we are in right now. We're in a time where America is being ripped apart, but the liberals are saying, "Oh, we just want the peace. We want to work together. We want to do this." You know, instead of saying, "No, let's go ahead and you want war. Let's go to war about what you're trying to do. What 47 is trying to do." So Malcolm said it, but he said it 60 years ago, man, and we sit around and we ignored it. They are the worst. They watch everything that we have worked for, or our people have worked for, since coming out of slavery. They watch it get torn apart, and they just sit on the sideline. But then when you talk about other issues and stuff, you hear loud roars. When you hear a certain country name called, they front and center. They front and center when that certain country called. But the people who built the country, you're quiet when things happen to them. It's a disappointment.
Wow. See, what you just described is what, again, the experts call the psychological cost of bipolarity. Is that for us as a people, there's a psychological cost. Not only are we not paid and have not been paid, we yet still today are paying a cost. There's an expense. If you look at us as on an income statement, we still have an expense structure built into our mental framework and perspective. It breeds exhaustion, the constant need to prove our humanity, our worth, and belonging to a land built on our ancestral sacrifice and even the sacrifice that we make today. For white America, of course, it fosters denial, a defensive blindness where they don't want to see. It's like when someone said, you have 20/20 vision, but you still can't see. You can't see because of the unique, gift that's been made available to you, the gift of white nationalism, of hegemon, this concept of dominance. And for the nation, it produces paralysis. I was chatting with a brother the other night, and he would ask about his son, and he said he's become so eccentric. Says that, he paints his nails black. He does crazy stuff, got body piercings everywhere. He's smart, attended MIT and all of that. But when he got around those people and didn't have an outlet, had not been built into his operational plan, the need to stay around folks like him, that he got caught up in this psychological bipolarity and essentially for a moment lost his mind. And when he came to, he discovered what he had done to himself. It's like a brother was sharing earlier tonight, when we ourselves began to internalize racism, that we ourselves become the very thing that those that oppose us say and think about us. We begin to embrace it unknowingly because we have not commanded to be the leaders of our own brain. We have not made our brains our slave, because that's what we need to do. We need to make our brain our slave. And the only way we can make our brain our own slave is we must condition and program ourselves. We can't leave it up to the system, because if we do, we will ourselves begin to suffer the psychological cost of bipolar reality in America. We all know Neely Fuller, and Neely said, hey, if you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else you understand will only confuse you. And that's a prime example. Cyber, you said something very powerful. Even a lot of things that you brothers say are so powerful. That's why I enjoy getting together with you in this virtual studio each and every week. But when you look at, again, this concept of immigration, why is it so difficult? And again, we speculate, we research, we know when we look at research, we're just attempting to expand the existing base of knowledge. There's a base of knowledge, and we try to correlate it, we try to synthesize it, analyze it, and all of that. But based on everything that you are seeing, based on your world, your professional world, where you don't have a chance to rub elbows with brothers that look like you or look like us every day, what is it that keeps you from falling into that psychological trap?
Is this for me or Peacemaker? I think it's
for you,
okay. Yeah, I got you. Okay. For me, being in this world, this realm of technology and cybersecurity, and going to conferences, month in, month out, and seeing a crowd that doesn't quite look like me, um, it actually motivates me, and that's strange. It motivates me to keep pushing to show that we belong. That's a motivation for me to go in and do, participate on the panel, or if I'm at my job to shine, to say that, you know what, we can do everything that everybody else can do given the right opportunities and the right tools. Don't send me in the game, you going in with a helmet, shoulder pads, knee pads, butt pad, cleats, stocks, wristbands. You got the visor on, but then you send me in a game, and all I got is a towel wrapped around me. You can always say that you're better when you well equipped and I'm not. But if we both well equipped, then let's see how it plays out. And that's been America's game. That's been America's game. The more I study, the more I go down these rabbit holes and do. That's always been America's game. They go in it well prepared. Just look at the Tuskegee Airmen. Let's go back to the Tuskegee Airmen. And if you read any of the stories and how they went to war, and the other pilots, their planes were good, had the best planes, had the best, tools. They sent the Tuskegee Airmen, planes broken down, planes halfway working, but they got them up to some level of some level of what's the word I'm looking for?
Proficiency.
Proficiency. Thank you, brother. They got it up to some level of proficiency, and they went and handled business. As you stated before, as you stated when you opened this thing, you say your son wrote a paper saying that blacks are the most patriotic. We are the most patriotic, in my opinion, because we had no choice. We had no choice in this matter. Yet we were patriotic. We've supported you. We supported everything, even to our detriment. And you still smack us in the face every chance you get. But again, I tell my kids, like, I'm hoping that I'm the last generation, or my generation is the last generation that didn't have a choice. I got a choice now, but I done got a little season now. I done got a little season now, and got to take care of the elders. I'm that generation now that's taking care of the elders in my family. But my kids, I tell them, y'all still young. Go do it now. Go visit. Go find a place that you can make your home if you wanted to. That's my talk to them. Go find it. Don't wait for me. Don't look. We'll get up and get on a plane and come visit or whatever, but go find a place. You got a choice. And I every time I have a chance to commend these young brothers of another podcast, Earn Your Leisure, some brothers have visited. I've been paying attention to their channel, and these past few weeks, they've been in all of these different African countries, providing a way for Black Americans to say, hey, we here, we making we doing business. It's open for you. Come here, come here, come here. I think they've been in 4 or 5 different countries in the past 2 or 3 weeks. You got a choice.
Beautiful.
So, I mean, that's just my statement on that, brother.
And what comes to my mind are you saying that is now you have an opportunity to make choices. You have choices that are being made available to you. And based on that premise, we as brothers, we should be encouraging our young people. See, the mindset, I can remember myself going through a mindset when I was attacked by an infirmity and not knowing what the outcome might be. I wanted my children to stay around me as they were going into college. And as I look now, of course, I didn't realize. I hope it wasn't an act of lack of faith on my part, wanting them around me. I really wish I would have pushed them away from me, would have pushed them out to go greater places and further away to make it more difficult for them to have mother and father there. And that was a selfishness that we all sometimes have to grow out of. And then that philosophy you just shared of telling your children to go and seek your own before you get overly committed to the mundane things of life. Because once they get committed to the mundane things of life, like marriage and children and all of that, it becomes a little bit more complicated. But when you're young and free and not burdened with all of that, you can go and experience a lot of things. But peacemaker, we always got at some point come back to a process also of righteousness. When I think about immigration and to think about it, here it is, people saying, okay, you're making it difficult for the American farmer because you're running the immigrants back to Mexico and South America. Isn't it interesting that the thing we need most, food, that's an area where we want to pay people the least amount of money. And when 47 came back and said that if you don't let the immigrants come in, you're going to create jobs for the black people. At least he alluded to that potentiality. I mean, how is it? We should all want to be experts in growing food, living off the land. What's happened? How is it that the unwelcome immigrants or the forced immigrants that started with our people, were doing things that allowed folks to be sustained, but were paid nothing? And then in 2025, we have the same model in place. The people that's at the lowest end of the totem pole being paid money are those people that are asked to care for the very food that we need to sustain us. Is that bipolar or what?
It definitely is. When you think about, it's the same bipolarism ideas that we have about our education system, that we have about our healthcare, and even now, what I've seen when it comes to healthcare or concerning of elderly patients. My brother being in a nursing home, and I see it every time I go and visit, that those are the people that get paid the less amount of money, but they are the ones that's doing one of the greatest, if not the most honorable jobs that we have. And when we talk about teachers, you think about teachers now having to go into their own money and use their own money to supply students and come up with supplies for stuff that they need in school and that the children need, and yet parents can't afford it. So it's definitely something that we need to look at. I will say that having a grandfather who had a garden in his backyard, in our backyard, I was never wanted to get involved. I don't know if it was my allergies or if it was just the fact that I thought I was just too good to get my hands dirty like that in the garden. Now, he did teach me some other activities, how to do stuff around the house and do stuff on cars, but growing my own food is something that I wish I would have learned from him. And we didn't have a big backyard, but we had a decent backyard, maybe a 22 by 12. And he grew collard greens, some watermelons. And I remember every summer going down to North Carolina just to work with my uncle on the watermelon patches. So it's definitely something that we need to look at when we see these immigrants and 47 talk about these so-called black jobs. I think one of the reasons why he is so afraid is because he's seen these immigrants become unionized. And we understand that he is a great proponent or deterrent against the unions. He does not like unions. He wants to disband and get rid of all kind of unions. Even in the federal government, one of the things that he did in this administration is to disable unions. So he sees that these people are unionizing, that they coming together, and that when you come together, there's nothing that's almost impossible for you to achieve. So I think he's seen where, unfortunately, we as people of color did not unionize as we ought to, but he sees that these immigrants, these Southern American immigrants coming together saying, hey, we need better conditions. We're doing work that no one else wants to do, but more or less we're doing work that will feed the world, and we deserve better and we want better.
Now, Peacemaker, you want to tell me you went down there, you didn't want to get your alligators dirty, you didn't want to get your fresh cup.
Well, when I went down to North Carolina, I ain't have a choice. But when I was back here in the city, I had a choice.
Okay, you don't want to get those gators wet. But recognition, brothers, I think, is the first step towards trying to find if there is any type of reconciliation, meaning what the Europeans can be led to or expected to do. Because we are not outside of seeking charity. We ain't asking for nothing that don't belong to us. My grandfather, he was an entrepreneur because he had a farm in Mississippi. And that's what he did. 16 children, married at 16. My grandmother was 13. And, but we're not guests at the American table. We just not. We built the table. We cooked the meal, but we were denied a seat. I mean, if America should be granting African Americans, similar to what you do in business, in international business, a most favored nation status. I mean, you talk about when you think about reservations in this country, how when they do business oftentimes with the government, they get this so-called most favored nation treatment to where oftentimes they get a better price, the lowest price, and all this kind of stuff. But if America can grant most favored nation status to trading partners, it can surely develop some kind of most deserving people status to its own children, to its own heirs, to those who allowed America to be what it is today. It is a distasteful reality to hear people talk about ridding America of DEI, when in fact we are not the real leading recipients of that particular program, but another facade, another lie to have the people think, feel, and believe that some kind of reason there's something favorable being made available to us. To deny this reality in this age in 2025 is what some call intentional amnesia, to where we have forgotten about what's going on. As we close down this session, Cyber, once again, what are we going to do? That's why we're together, brothers, is to get a word out, to encourage people, to say, look, we got to have a full understanding. We just can't jump on any bandwagon. And when people start talking about immigration, we want, oh yeah, we got to close down the borders. Oh yeah. No. That's not our fight. Our fight should be, hey, we want most favored citizen status right here in America. We want to be paid. We want our network. Do we realize what we could do with $10 trillion plus dollars? The American debt today is well over $30 trillion. Do you imagine what we could do as a people? You know, Mr. Blow wrote a book. Charles Blow, I think the name, Curtis Blow Charles. He wrote a book about going back and again carving out a piece of the United States of America. Booker T. Washington talked about how we needed to learn how to use our hand versus worrying about integrating with Europeans. And there are many others that have had similar concepts. But at the end of the day, as we close this down, is it going to be possible now that this slippery slope is already happened? The empire has already fallen. De-dollarization has already taken place. I mean, so given what's happening right now, is it even conceivable? Is it possible that we ever can expect reparations or whatever you want to call it, back wages to take place so that then we, our people, of 45 million, we probably have those that passing as Europeans, they're going to want to come back and re-sign up. They're going to want to get back on the team if such a thing. And trust me, we serve a mighty God, brothers, because like Brother Cyber was saying, if they could make it on airplanes, they never lost anybody that they were protecting. Not one time. Not one time. And be protected by Almighty God. Should we not expect that God is going to make some things happen as we see the fall of this empire? What's your thoughts, Cyber?
Yes, I think that God is going to make a way, but I think that we have to be able to call out those who are selling us out. And I think sometimes we don't do a good enough job of that. And I think sometimes that's why we're not getting what we want, because they pick our leaders for us. They pick our leaders, they give them a check. And that has known that in the black community, the black bourgeoisie has been known to keep the black normal man and woman at check. They give them a check to keep us in check. And I think they've been doing a good job at it. And I give you a prime example. Who just gave Van Jones $100,000? Wasn't it Bezos? Gave him $100,000. I mean, $100 million or something like that to do investments or whatever he was supposed to be doing. And now you listen to the talk that Van Jones is talking. It has nothing to do with black people. He's critical of us. So he's gotten his check and saying, now I'm going to keep y'all in check. So until we as a people begin to call out these so-called leaders, because they're not my leaders, but these so-called leaders, and we got to do it like with force and power. We can't be, it's too late in this game to be playing around with this thing. We either want to be free or we don't. One of the two. You can't. You just have to make up in your mind that I want to be free. I want complete freedom. There's on the back of the final call since 1940 or 50. It has a what the Muslims want, but I believe this is what black people should want. We want freedom. We want a full and complete freedom. We want justice, equal justice under the law. We want justice applied equally to all, regardless of creed, class, or color. We want equality of opportunity. We want equal membership in society with the best in civilized society. We want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves to be allowed to establish a state, a separate state or territory of their own, either on this continent or elsewhere. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to provide such land, and that area must be fertile and minerally rich. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to maintain and supply our needs in this separate state or territory for the next 20 to 25 years until we are able to produce and supply our own needs. I don't know no other way to put it. They did it for another group of people.
That's beautiful, my brother. What are your final comments, peacemaker?
Yeah, I am again with all of these people who are coming to America. Um, and though I know some people would try to say, well, you all sound like you all don't want to be here. And sometimes I don't. But I appreciate America. I love America. But I understand what America has done to my people. I understand what it has stood for to my people and what the harm, the hurt, and the harm that it has caused to my people. And I'm trying to stop it by any means necessary. I think that we ought to get to the place where we do separate at a time. We try to do the inclusion and no hatred. And there's as the young people would say, there's no love lost. It's just that we trying to do something different. If you all are not going to give us what we rightfully earn, not what we earned it. Again, then let us free. Let us be free. One of the things that I would definitely like for us to do is support our young inventors. There is a young inventor out of Atlantic area named Julian Brown, who has recently come up with a way to make gasoline or fuel out of plastic. And I think we definitely should cover him, make sure that that invention continues to grow and become popularized, and make sure that no one else can claim it like they've tried to claim all these other inventions. So that's only one inventor. We have others that were making water out of air. I forgot the brother's name. Um, um, and causing clean water. So I think that we need to definitely invest, protect, and make sure that our inventors, that they understand where they come from and they don't get that isolated insomnia to say, oh, I no longer understand my people because I don't hang around my people. But I'm always going to look out for my people because I come from my people. I stand on their shoulders and I represent them when I go out into the world. As always,
Wow.
peace and love.
Powerful, brother. And I'm going to tell you, that brother that could take, if he could take PT bottles and turn them into fuel, trust me, that's $1 trillion deal right there. And of course, the capability of taking water out of the air and extracting the soil that's evaporated, that's a powerful concept in and of itself. But as I close, let me just give you brothers a couple of numbers. Do we realize that from the inception of this nation, that the only decade that black immigrants began to show up from the continent of Africa was in the 2000 to 2025, and then it was less than 5% of the immigrants coming to this nation. 1965 to 1980, over 70% came from Latin America and Asia. 1980 to 2020, Mexico, India, China, and the Philippines. And again, in time period 20 to 2025, or less than 5% came from Africa. And so when you look at that, that's the first time what you call free African immigrants came to America. Prior to that, there was no significant immigration from Africa to the United States by people that came from Africa. If they came, they slid in, but by the statistics made available from Pew Research, that's what it's been. It hasn't been that many people. And again, when you look at the double standards on the reparations ledger, there is just no way you can justify what's taking place. So we are the unseen heirs in the United States of America. Recently, I was dealing with a probate situation, and I tell you, heirs are very interested in what is theirs. Heirs interested in theirs. And America's greatest paradox is that the very people who made her great are still waiting to be seen as great. Our people, we are the children of the enslaved, and we're not just a part of America, but we are America. We are the truest sons and daughters. There are no truer sons and daughters. And to heal, America must cease its bipolar oscillation between confession and concealment. She must see what history and heaven already know, that the promise of America remains incomplete until the debt to her firstborn and first builders is paid in full. Until that takes place, America will remain a nation that refuses to see and honor her heirs. This is the Godfather, Mike Side, reminding you, hit that share button, hit that like button, go and have some conversation with other people. By all means, remember though, we are the true heirs to America. Just as some of the young people continue to say, there is no more patriotic people than Black folks, the descendant of African slaves.